This is Marcus Hollinger, and this is the 116 Live Show on Holy Culture Radio, Sirius XM Channel 154. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of the 116 Life. My name is Marcus. I'm one of your hosts, and I'm here with my good friend
Ace Harris.
And as I said, this is the 116 Live on Holy Culture, Sirius XM Channel 154. And today, Ace and I, we were talking, and we felt like it might be good to spin the block one good time. Last week we had Portia on, and prior to that we had a chance to sit with Lecrae and talk about the Church Clothes tour. And if you didn't catch the episode, we did one on Kingdom Business, and we were talking about doing business as a Christian and the difference between some of the expectations around Reach being a ministry and being a business, things like that. It was a really cool conversation. We got a lot of great feedback on that. This week, however, we wanted to kind of go a level deeper and be a little more specific on the aspects of actually showing up every day and existing in this business from our respective roles.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like talking through the business, like if this is Kingdom Business, we're going to really focus on the business side, as I feel like that is an area that we probably don't talk enough about in depth. And I think artists could benefit. Maybe not limited to artists, creative people who are tapped into the 116 life. Just want to know, like, what is the business of music that y'all be like? What do y'all be doing in these offices? What y'all spend y'all time doing? And I think that'll be super dope. Because I mean, yeah, I think about you, Marcus, and I'm like, you know, historically, you kind of live in the shadows. You're not really like trying to be so much out there. But when you get close to you, you're like, yo, this dude is super smart. This dude gets behind a microphone like he's been on stage for years, like. And I feel like when people come up to you, they be having like a lot of questions when they find out like you're the chief marketing officer at Reach Records. Like, you are the guy that, like, what does that look like when people come up to you, ask you those questions, and what does it look like to actually market these records, man?
Yeah. So first, I just want to read something.
Okay.
To sort of put this in the backdrop. I know, you know, we're going to be being very specific today to talk about things like that, but I always want to give something to the kingdom side. So I want to say this, and this comes from Titus 3, and we're going to start at verse 4 and just read through verse 8. And it says, "But when the kindness and love of God, our Savior, appeared, he saved us, not because of righteous things we had done, but because of his mercy. He saved us through the washing of rebirth and renewal by the Holy Spirit, whom he poured out on us generally through Jesus Christ our Savior, so that having been justified by his grace, we may become heirs, having the hope of eternal life." And this is where it gets good. "This is a trustworthy saying, and I want you to stress these things, so that those who have trusted in God may be careful to devote themselves to doing what is good. These things are excellent and profitable for everyone." So
that's dope.
I just want to put that distinction there, because as music executives and all this other stuff like that, like, really what we're going to talk about, skills building, career building every day, when we show up every day, it really comes down to this: devoting ourselves to doing what is good.
Right.
And being of service.
Right.
So I just kind of want to put that out there. But Ace, I think what you were asking me is, you asked me how do I feel when I get questions about my role, stuff like that. I think a lot of times I'm surprised, because I look out.
Why is that? Why are you?
One, because I think in music, a lot of people naturally gravitate more toward the record making. It's like, how did you make that song? How did you make that beat? Because those things are exciting. I mean, that's the stuff that I would want to hear. You know, I want to hear that stuff too. So I'm always surprised in that sense. And then I think I see so much on social media where it looks like everybody just has the answers. So I'm like, who? Why would anybody want to know?
So everybody has one of these microphones?
Man, it's like every day I'm scrolling through Twitter, and it's almost like, and I felt this as an insecurity, because I don't get online and
You don't pop off online.
I don't do that. Like, oh, here's what
10 here's a thread. 10 steps on how to go from 0 followers on Instagram to 100,000 in 100 days.
Yeah, I don't do that. And a lot of times I grow, and not that I don't see a lot of great things online. I really do.
Right.
But a lot of times I start to get a little bit suspicious that if somebody's always talking about how to break records, they might not actually be breaking records. Like, there's the music there's the business of talking about the business, and then there's the business of being in the business. And I think for me, I just always want to make sure that I'm actually doing it. You know what I'm saying?
But I mean, right now we're doing both.
We are.
We're kind of talking about the business of doing.
Yeah, I think I was just saying that's why I get surprised.
Okay, when people come to you,
because it seems like everybody already knows. Anyway,
everybody got the full like appendix marketing 101 how to make music.
Everybody's a marketer nowadays. Like, so, you know, so the answer is I get surprised.
Okay, so if everybody's a marketer, do you mean that everybody's not? And what makes you a marketer in this role? Like, why are you a marketer versus some of the people that hold these microphones and some of that information is good.
Yeah, no,
even
it's
if
good
it comes
to
from someone who doesn't necessarily have experience. But there is something about people who are actually doing the business and then advice coming from
I think the first thing I'll say is specificity.
Okay.
Right? Like, I can't tell you how to, and this is why I'm not one of those people who just pop off. One, because I'm coming up on 10 years doing this, and there are a lot of people that I respect who've done it for like 20 years. And to me, I'm always like, man, I still have so much to learn. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to put something out there that might be dated or whatever, you know. But then at the same time, I think specificity is important because to exist in this business is completely different than what it looks like to exist in some other businesses. There are executives at independent record labels who a large portion of their business is sync. A large portion of their business is selling written composition on sheet music. I mean, you know, we just had this conversation on Monday. So there's so many different business models that are out here, and I think what I would say makes me a marketer is I am existing in this context, trying to figure out what does it take to move these records, right? Because we're not selling a lot of the things that other people are selling. Sex is being sold. Violence is being sold. Now, there are ways to market that. There are ways to market sex. There are ways to market violence. There are ways to market consciousness, all of that. So I think my main thing is just, okay, what am I waking up? What challenge am I waking up every day actually looking at in front of me?
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that's super dope what you said, calling out. I just want to help the listeners understand, even like people on you know that's tuning in, like, what is it about what you do that makes it difficult to market what we do? Like, what is it about what you bring to the table that makes it that's obviously hard to do, but what is your distinction that's like, yo, I am learning, I market Reach Records, like not the label, but actually records, like the actual music. What is it about your distinction that makes you qualified to market what we do? You know
I think part of it is why I started off by reading that Bible verse, and really what I get out of that is that there's an impetus to do good. There's an impetus to seek the good of the city, right? The Bible says when the righteous are promoted, the city rejoices. So there's I think what it has taken for me is I've had to know my Bible.
Wow.
I've had to know my Bible for the last 10 years to be a part of this, to be able to interpret a cultural moment and say, oh, okay, well, here's how we can speak to this with a sense of relevancy, but also to do good as the Bible would define what that doing good is. I mean, there's so many viral moments that have happened that have started with me kind of being out on a ledge, looking out, and kind of like what Ephesians 5 talks about is knowing the times. That's and being prepared to speak into the times. So I would say right off the bat, that's one distinction, is that there actually does have to be a relationship with the scripture, with the living God, and with people. Like to
really
listen
good.
to the poets of the day and know what people's hurts are. And then I think underneath that is my professional training, which
Right.
is my degree, you know, which, you know, came from where basketball was invented, the greatest public institution known to man, the University of Kansas, at the William Allen White.
Oh, this man said it with the utmost confidence.
At the William Allen White School of Journalism, where the greatest basketball coach. Anyway, you know, and so I learned how to put together strategic marketing campaigns, which, you know, starts with taking a message,
right,
and figuring out how to give that message a consistent expression across different vertical platforms.
I think, yada yada yada. I hear all that, but okay, you talked about, give a specific example, a moment where you had to filter, you had to look at in the city, look at cross culture, filter through your biblical lens, and you had to put on your marketing hat and move your marketing mind into all these different spaces. Like, give me like an example, because I feel like sometimes where I sit, it seems like people just look at the music marketing like it's just, the marketing wasn't right, so they didn't know what they was doing. That's why the song, they like talked about a specific moment, that can kind of speak to that.
I think I would have to go back to, I think I would look at Lecrae's Restoration.
Good one.
And there was if there was ever a time when we had to, where we had to really figure it out, where all the spiritual discipline, the professional discipline, the cultural understanding kind of had to all align. I think that album was one, because it's like, man, the pandemic hit and nobody was putting out music. Like we were in that partnership with Columbia, and like it was like, everybody was pulling their release dates because you couldn't tour, because you couldn't, there was just a lot of things that you couldn't do. And so it was like, man, y'all are basically telling us that we probably shouldn't even put this album out. But see, the way that our situation is set up, we can't just not put out music.
We ain't got that the Columbia bag.
Yeah, we don't have 40, 50 years of masters to bankroll the situation in films and all that. So it's like, nah, we can't. Yeah. But there was also an impetus of, wait a minute, people need hope right now.
Okay.
Like that was at the time when, black people were dying every day.
Right.
On the news, you know what I'm saying? That was at the time when people didn't know what was going on with the pandemic. So it was like, wait, we actually have hope. Let's put it out.
That's amazing. Can I just frame what you said? We actually have hope.
Yeah.
Let's put that out.
Yeah.
That's so dope.
Yeah, man. We got it. Let's lead with that. And so I think there was a message that was crafted. I think we spoke right to that, because there was a way that it could have looked insensitive. You know what I'm saying? But I think we laid out. I was like, okay, if that's the time, what's the message? And the message is that there's hope in the middle of all this. I can't remember the specific.
I think it was Deep End. The Deep End record came. It wasn't slated to be.
No, it wasn't
one of the singles. I remember in an exec meeting, you kind of called an audible.
Yeah.
Like, we need to pivot the release to this song, and I was kind of on board with you. We had other thing. I think we had the
Drown record was supposed to come out.
Yeah,
the John Legend. I think it was John.
We had the John Legend record, and then,
it was queued up, but it was like, nah, we can't put that out right now because it doesn't make sense for where people are. So in you're right. So there was an audible call. Shout out to Alex, because I think she had just delivered the record.
It was Kari.
My bad. Kari had just delivered the record. And I was like, no, this is the one that we should put out, because it's going to speak to
right where we at.
Right to where we are. So I remember we shot 2 videos in a 24-hour.
Oh, yeah. You got that Deep End video done.
We shot 2 music videos, and I would say something like 36 hours, because we had one, and it was like, no. That's a great video, but we can't put it out right now. So we need to shoot. We need this song. We need a video for this song, because this is the one that's going to actually speak to the moment that we're in.
That was such a clutch.
And it went viral. The song went viral. It did good. It's one of our top performing songs.
Still to this day, one of Lecrae's top songs. I mean, that's a great moment of like merging faith reading culture, and then also applying good marketing instinct.
Yeah.
And I think people feel like sometimes the marketing is this ethereal thing you do in music, but here was a live example, which I think was really helpful. So yeah, I mean, we could talk about, get into the music side a little bit.
Yeah,
we're
gonna flip the mic. We're gonna take a quick break, and we appreciate y'all if you're just joining us. We're 116 Life. I'm one of your hosts, Marcus Hollinger. I'm here with
Ace Harris,
and it's the 116 Live on Sirius XM Channel 154. We'll be right back for more industry talk after these messages. All right, dope. So welcome back to the 116 Life. I'm Marcus Hollinger. I'm here with my good friend Ace Harris.
I'm Marcus Hollinger today, clearly.
All right, and I'm Ace Harris today. Whatever you play.
Yeah, we just yes.
And if you're just joining us, we've been having this conversation about the actual business of marketing and A&Ring records, and we started out talking about Lecrae's restoration, and Ace kind of was asking me about some special moments in that, and I kind of talked through how the faith, culture, and business lenses led to a decision in the middle of the pandemic to call an in-game audible, if you will. We had a record queued up, we had a music video shot, and we were getting ready to release, but I couldn't help see what was going on in the in the world, how the news was affecting people, and how the pandemic was affecting people. And the song that we had slated felt like it was probably going to be tone deaf and maybe not resonate in the market as much as we would have liked. But instead we switched to Deep End, which hit. It was a streaming success. It's been one of our top performers. We shot 2 videos in 32 hours to get it done.
Yeah.
It was crazy. So now we want to pivot a little bit and talk about that same album, because I think it was a case study in how marketing and A&R can actually work together to be successful. And it's not just marketing and A&R, but for the purpose of this conversation,
it's many more people.
Yeah, it's many
Studio,
more people.
digital, everybody plays a part.
Make these things go. So Ace, that was a very difficult season.
Yeah.
I remember you, Lecrae, and I were in the studio on our knees praying for legal to come through on the Set Me Free record.
Oh, yeah.
And so my question is, for you, in that time, I mean, how do you A&R? What is your distinction? What uniquely qualifies you, and what task are you combing through on releases like that to successfully A&R records?
I mean, I feel like first of all, great question. The Restoration album was super. It was like an experience. You know what I'm saying? It was like one of the hardest things I feel like I had done at the time. Shout out to guests in the building. Y'all can't see, my man T-Dot just walked in. But yeah, it was like, I feel like what makes it super unique for me is that being able to hear good music and make good music is part of it. It's like it's important. But I mean, literally, the music has like, especially with Lecrae, especially with Reach Records, there is like a spiritual component that goes into the music that doesn't necessarily, it can show up on the stat sheet, but you have to be wired spiritually and mentally to know what that is when you're making this music. Like the album was called Restoration. Lecrae even had a whole boot camp at like Stanford to do like design thinking and plan a rollout for it. And I remember, I mean, I will say this, and I think I've told somebody else this. Maybe I told Lecrae this. That was probably the hardest project that I've ever A&R.
Say more about that. What is there a moment in the middle of A&Ring that project that makes you feel like that was the hardest project you ever A&R?
Number one, it's a couple moments. I'll speak to one that was really tough. We talked about Deep End. We talked about Drown. So Drown was a record that we had the chorus. Shout out to Frankie, and the co-A&R at the time was Ben Madahi from Columbia. We had the chorus. We had the early stages of the song, and we didn't have a feature. We were trying. This is when pragmatism does work in A&R, or sometimes it doesn't work. It was like we had, Frankie produced the I'll Find You record. So Frankie had this other record, which is Drown. And it was kind of like, yo, this play worked then. Let's run this back.
Yeah.
And to be honest, the lyrics on Drown were special, spiritually on par where we were at. So I don't think it was like a record that we felt like was just didn't mean anything. The song had a meaning to it that Lecrae really loved. So that has to be, like, if you got a hit record, but it don't speak to where you are as an artist or as a label.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still like, it has to mean something too.
Yeah.
You can't just mail it in. But anyway, we had that song. We had most of the album done, but we couldn't turn in the album until we had a feature secured for that song.
Yeah.
And when I tell you, me, Lecrae, and Ben Madahi, the A&R from Columbia, we tapped everybody for a feature. Like, I
remember that.
What
were some of the names? Who was getting tapped?
I'm trying not to get canceled out here, but okay, we tapped Chris Brown, who was interested in doing the song, which I know that can be a cringe suggestion, but hey, look, dude's talented. Forgive that man. He already, that's a whole nother tangent. But we tapped Lauren Daigle,
she was fresh off that.
We tapped who else? A couple pop artists. Not Demi Lovato. We tapped BB Rexha.
Yeah.
We tapped Imagine Dragons.
Mm-hmm.
Adam Levine. We tapped.
it was a manhunt.
We knew this song was special and it needed the right kind of pop leaning artist to pull it off. So it was tough, and we literally were striking out with people saying we like it, we'll get to it, or we can't get to it, but we do like it, we'll try, and it was just nothing coming through. If the I'll Find You feature experience was easy, this one was not.
Yeah.
And I think a couple weeks before the master due date to even have a release in summer, we had to have a decision. Me and Lecrae was in Studio D talking about, we was texting the other A&R, Ben, kind of on his head like, yo, we haven't secured a feature for it. We were really stressed. And Lecrae called an audible. It was like, yo, Ace, put the phone down. Yo, let's pray.
Yeah.
Me and Lecrae got on our knees and prayed in Studio D.
There were a lot of on the knees prayer moments. For that album.
And we prayed for God to, if he wants this song to work, deliver a feature for us, or we'll just do without a feature and to trust you to do we'll trust the song. We believe in the song. We'll trust it to be whatever he needs it to be for it to come out.
Yeah.
And kid you not, this is not like you pray to God and he gives you what you want. It's moment. This is we trust God and he gives you the result that he sees best for your situation. And within 2 days, we got a call back from the A&R Ben Madahi that John Legend wanted to do the song. Yeah. And he cut the song in like a week, got done, and we turned the album in, and we finally had a release date. So that jump was stressful.
And what I think about, sports is something that we often lean on because of the metaphors and the life lessons that it teaches us. Ace, this sounds like a Game 6, we have to win this game type of moment. And I like to think when you see young teams or inexperienced teams who are all talent, they often fall apart in those moments. Yeah. Because of maybe missing that veteran leadership or that veteran poise to stay locked in the moment and not, I would love to hear from you what experience were you leaning on, or maybe can you speak to something specific that gave you the instincts to stay locked in that moment?
Yeah, shout out the whole team. I think with the role of A&R and realizing how important that everything starts with the music. So I felt like there's been moments in my life where, I've kind of been in the pressure cooker to deliver something, and I just kind of had to do it. And I think that kind of prepared me for that moment. But specifically, I think that thinking about restoration, which is, I guess, the best example for these illustrations, was we had a pandemic. We had Lecrae's album After All Things Work Together. We had come off the Let the Trap Say Amen, which musically wasn't as well received as we would like to. In hindsight, I understand. But it was kind of like we need to deliver great music that speaks to our message, and every song has to count. And I just remember feeling like, yo, we just kind of got to like get in the mud and keep going until you got that feeling that this feels like something I'm proud of, walking into the building, playing in a marketing meeting, playing for people that I'm a fan of. And yeah, it just kind of it was kind of like a call to action, a responsibility more so to just deliver something great. And I think Lecrae obviously pushed me too, but yeah, it was just kind of like, I'm not saying the whole building was counting on this album or this moment, but I went into as an A&R feeling like this is my first full-length A&R project that I'm doing for Lecrae. So I'm going to get everything I got for sure. Like I'm not leaving anything on the table. Like, yeah, that was cool. It could have been better here. Nah, we every hook, every production, everything was really finely, detailed to make it make sense. And then, you can look back and say, hey, numbers this or numbers that. But I hope people can hear the amount of like input and like fight that we put into the music to give people a product that like gave them what you said earlier, hope.
Yeah.
And I don't take that lightly. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I don't know if that gave you enough specifics, but that's
No, that's incredible. And it was something that you spoke to about you and Ben Madahi. Shout out to Ben Madahi, one of the coolest people, man. I think very fondly of those trips to LA.
Oh yeah.
When we would just be in there with him and just talking about life, and such a well dressed and well poised.
Oh yeah, he's a rock star.
He's the man. But you talked about how you two were really tapping your networks and things like that. Ace, can you talk a little bit about how do you approach an artist or a management team in that moment to try to get a song done?
I mean, it's honestly, it was funny. I feel like sometimes when people ask me how did we or what do you do, I sometimes fumble with like a template, because I think sometimes you're just it's almost like, yo, it's game 6 and you're just shooting the rock.
Yeah.
And I think maybe on the marketing side is some of that energy where, and this is something for like younger artists, aspiring execs. I know that me and Marcus have experience doing this, and we're actually giving you guys some behind the scenes look into how to do it. And I think that's wisdom. And shout out to all the people who get on those podcasts with these microphones and try to tell you all the game. Honestly though, that's part of it. And it's like the part of the best way to know how to do it is just actually doing it.
It's to just do it.
Go for it.
And so it's
just like, I can give you so obviously I went through my Rolodex of contacting people, hitting up managers, artists, sending them a song. I had an email draft template that I would send. I'm thinking about Lecrae's brand, who could sound good on the song, what works, co-primary artists, what feature gives us the best commercial viability, who can sing this song and actually mean it. All those things I'm thinking about. But at the end of the day, I mean, when you kind of felt like it's on you to deliver something, you can't always fall back on these little templates. You have to kind of have a killer instinct out here
and just go get it.
And I think sometimes artists want to contextualize the how, but miss the drive part, which is like, you just got to have an instinct. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And there's something too. I like to think about these things, and a lot of times we look at like outcome or output, and we forget that there's a context that outcome or that output came out of, and we try to drop off the context and just create the output.
That's good.
And it's like, well, what worked in this situation may not apply to your situation. And that, I think, is where we started the conversation, and maybe just a call out for wisdom. That's the name of this game, right? Like it's not a Chance the Rapper released his song on YouTube, so we should start releasing songs on YouTube and not do that. It's like, but what was Chance's context?
That's good.
Right?
You said this before, Marcus. Content.
Oh yeah, there's a famous marketing quip that says content is king, and I always say, well, if content is king, context is God.
That's a bar. That's amazing.
And I think that's important to ground these conversations in, because we can't sit up here and tell you, oh, in this situation do X, or in that situation do Y, because it would create this like false premise that things always stay the same.
That's true. When things are the inputs that worked in 2020 when we were making that album, the A&R mindset in 2020 is totally different than the A&R mindset in 2023. The marketing mindset in 2020 is totally different from the marketing mindset in 2023. So we're constantly evolving, changing, growing, learning. But there are some like bare bones of things I think that we like, kind of cling to.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's not really a copy paste all the time. And I think be willing to dare to evolve, dare to grow, dare to not have all the answers.
Yeah. Ooh, that's good, Ace. I think that's something we can dive into in our next segment to kind of talk about what that looks like today and what are some of the changes and how are we seeing things today. So thank you for listening in with us. If you're just joining us, once again, maybe it's your first time, my name is Marcus. I'm here with my good friend
Ace Harris.
This is the 116 live on Sirius XM Channel
154.
We're going to take a quick break and we're going to get back into this conversation about actually existing in the music business from a marketing and A&R perspective. We started off with a bit of scripture, so we got the spiritual component in the backdrop, and we're going for it. We're going in. We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to the 116 Life on Sirius XM Channel 154. My name is Marcus,
and
Ace y'all Harris. Know this.
Oh, man, I cut you off.
We're here with Ace Harris, and we're brothers. We're happy and we're singing and we're colored. Give me a high five.
What a classic show.
All right, cut and beautiful guys.
Yeah.
So we're laughing because we also have Tadashi in the studio in the background. He's cutting a fool.
Yeah, he's cutting a
That's
fool.
just one of the joys of being able to do this. You just never know what's going on in the studio. So Ace, we were just having this conversation. So far, we've tracked through marketing, we've tracked through A&R, and we were taking a specific look at what it took to get through some of the more difficult moments of Lecrae's restoration. And we talked about, I think one theme that seems to kind of resurface is how you kind of have to look at these things in context of where you are,
right,
and make the call for the situation that you're in. And maybe what we're offering are stories that our fellow travelers can store in their memory bank and say, oh, I remember listening to Ace. I remember listening to Marcus.
That's good, yeah.
And that situation that they were in, I feel like I'm finding myself in a similar situation. So now I can have the courage to act and do what I need to do.
Sure.
But let's talk a little bit, Ace, about what things look like now. Because Restoration came out
3 years ago.
3 years ago, which nowadays feels like 10 years ago.
Man.
Because things are moving so fast and so many other things have happened.
Yeah, I feel like, what does it look like to A&R or market a record in 2023 when the world is crazy right now? I mean, everybody's got content. Everybody's got these microphones. Everybody's scrolling. Like, I mean, how do, especially like with social media, like how important is it, Marcus, currently as an artist? How do you guys filter the necessity for social media? And what are some of your cautions to the landscape of marketing an artist?
Yeah.
And like, what's something that you can kind of call out to that? You know?
So yeah, man, I think with social, and I'm going to try to ground this in as many, I know I said I wanted to try to avoid, sort of like cut, copy, paste, but I'm going to try to get really specific
let's do
in this one. So
I think that's necessary.
Social media is incredibly important. And I think learning what the algorithm is doing is probably one of the most critical things an artist can try to figure out. And then define your own relationship to the algorithm. So, we were having a conversation with Forrest Frank and Hovey, and we were debriefing their record, No Longer Bound.
Right.
And some of the most brilliant insights came out of that conversation. And really what it was centering around was, starting the song off with a creative moment that catches the attention of the algorithm and spreads the music outside of your core following. So what Forrest kind of told us that he had, and we know this record has been all over the Spotify charts, is climbing the radio charts right now, and this thing is blazing. What Forrest was kind of telling us was he started off with not a music video, but a compelling piece of creative that when he posted it, it caught the attention of the Instagram algorithm, and it expanded. It's probably something like a 80%. The data was showing that song was catching traction. The composite number of views were coming from something like 80% of people who didn't follow him.
That's dope.
So that right there was incredible, because it's like, oh, that's kind of what we're looking for in that first post, is to actually ping the algorithm through compelling content that people are sharing, and now it's getting outside of your core. That's growth hacking, right? That's growth hacking. And then after that, continuing to feed that algorithm with content that is being shipped or distributed outside of your basic core. Now the record's gotta be good, because as you're getting this top of the funnel exposure, it's the quality of that audio that's gonna get people to sink back down and engage. And so on the other side of this, there is, well, what if that first post or those first couple posts don't really ping? That might mean still put that song out, but it's time to re-up and have another go at the algorithm. So I think naturally this has some A&R implications, because what if I come back and say, Ace, we ran that first test on the algorithms and it's not responding? Feelings aside, preciousness about the art, and this is where the rubber meets the road, because everybody has to have that dog in them. The artist, the marketing, the A&R, to say, hey, this song, we might have to kind of just shoot another shot. Because it's not reacting. The people are not reacting. And so much of the way that we think about marketing music, or even marketing product, word of mouth is the strongest form of marketing. It always has been, and it always will be. And that's what we're looking at as social media. Not, am I putting out a whole bunch of content and it's going to force it down people's throat? No. Am I giving it to people where they can receive it, which is social media, and are they reacting to it? Are they spreading it? Are they sharing it? Is your music being shared? Is your music being spread? That is the number one thing. That's what matters.
People sharing.
And we have to have the courage to actually look at that data.
You're killing me right now. Because I hear that, and if I'm an artist, I'm hearing that, and I'm like, what you mean my song ain't good?
Well, and it's not, and I think that's the thing. It's not so much that that means that the song ain't good. It's just that right away, it's not the one that's going to get you the heat that you're looking for. So still put that song out, and then maybe if you move into another record, and that record catches the algorithm and it gets these people bought in, and they come down the funnel and they start looking at, and they look into the rest of your catalog, then maybe they'll discover that song. That's what happened with Hovey. It's like all his records were way, way up here, right? And then what started to happen is we started looking at the data across the rest of his records, and Beautiful started going nuts. Beautiful beat it did more stream. There was 2 weeks, or there was a week where Beautiful was streaming more for a week straight than it did when it originally came out a year ago.
That's discovery.
So that's the discovery. So that's why you want to consistently have records and consistently be putting them out, and get and really try to treat it all like an experiment. Because if you get one to sort of break through on that algorithm, I'm done telling people if their music is good or not. I'm not gonna tell you your song is good.
You hear that?
I'm not gonna tell you your song is good, because it doesn't matter what I think, and on some level, it doesn't matter what you think. What matters is, are people out there streaming it?
So that that approach I'm with, and as somebody who makes the music,
yeah,
I have nothing to say about that. And I think that, especially when we're thinking about faith, culture, music, and the ways we distribute music, put it out. And I also think context to like who the artist is in their career lifespan is a thing
oh,
too.
yeah, for sure.
So like some artists may have a more bought-in audience where they may not as much need all those metrics to inspire a next release or it's like there's different containers to put that strategy into. For sure. But I do think there's a lot of wisdom in what you're saying. Like we talked about it. I mean, as toxic as social media is as a Christian, as toxic as it is to where TikTok's putting bans on kids under 13. The CEO of TikTok said his kids do not have TikTok on their phones.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and I want to. Yeah.
It's like there is some toxicity with this thing, and it's also the most viewed website in the world.
It's and I think it's a call to empathy because we all know it. Social media is the elephant in the room, and it's hard. It's hard. And essentially, what social media is, it's asking artists to continually perform. Yeah. That's what it's asking. Yeah. It used to be you weren't performing unless you were touring or unless you were doing a press interview. But now you have to isolate this part of yourself that resonates with your audience, and you have to consistently give that part of yourself, for what? And unfortunately, that is the work that it takes to be an artist in these times. Now, there are differences, right? So I think what we just talked about was an example, right? Yeah, I'm not like if you've been putting out records and if you find a success and you making money on music, disregard everything I'm saying because that's ultimately the objective, right? Yeah. But I think that applies to someone who's more of an independent artist. But then you got people like SZA who she didn't do none of this. None of that. She did have a song on TikTok for 2 years before the joint came out. But she already has an audience. She's a legacy artist. So she's not doing all this TikTok and Instagram and looking at the algorithm.
Right. But so she's legacy artist. And this album, which content I don't endorse. In fact, I wouldn't, like, people ask me about people I know like maybe going to the concert. I'm like, no, thank you. But the music, the A&R work into the music is really strong, really compelling. And that's something I try to do on my side is like, you know what? It's not try to make a viral song. If anybody tells you they know what they're doing to make a viral song. Yeah, that's not. And it can start to stink of exploitation. That's not what we're talking about. It's a very specific conversation about social media. Make great records that are compelling, that speak to where you are as an artist, that speak to your soul, gives people hope, taps into your fan base. Do all that and keep going. So we're making music. We're not trying to make viral songs, but we're all trying to make great songs that have moments that can have viral utility. Yeah. All the time. Like what? And that's not exploitation. That's strategy. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like when we made, Andy's probably does it naturally. Like he's not thinking about TikTok or Instagram Reels 4 years ago, 5 years ago. No. But that's kind of how he creates. Yes. So I think there are moments in some of like Hovey's music where people are grabbing it. And I'm like, Hovey naturally communicates in a very worshipful style. Yeah. So the utility is finding that style and saying, I want to use that song in my content, on my post, on my feed. So I think leaning into what you do, but being mindful of, hey, there is a little bit of utility in how you create, which can set up a great marketing strategy. Yes, yes. And I want to talk a little bit more about that, Ace, because I just described, and man, I know that that's probably going to come off a lot of different ways. And I'll be honest, is that what I just described? That is something that I have grated my stomach against to have to really embrace and think about in order to help our artists be successful. That's not how I came in 10 years ago. That's not how it was. That's right. True. And if it was up to me, right, it wouldn't be like that. But guess what? It is. So I want to ask Ace, then if you're saying as an A&R, you're not necessarily trying to engineer
viral moments, right? Elephant in the room, virality is a huge part of breaking records these days.
Absolutely.
How are you thinking about intentionally trying to coach the artist or work with the artist to craft their records in that type of climate?
Yeah, I think it's thinking about.
Or give us a moment.
Give us a moment. I would say,
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's a good example.
Yeah, what was with?
I mean, the Beautiful record, it was more so we had this beat. It had a sample in it. Carvello made the beat. The hook was written. I pushed Hovey to make the hook more corporate, so that in between part we worked on it together. And honestly, it was more so like some of the things that I think that works that I don't think we tried to do. It happened naturally, where there is rapping in the song, but the rapping is very short.
Oh yeah,
I know
okay.
the hip hop community is gonna kind of kill me for this, but it's like, yeah, Hovey raps in that moment, but he's not over rapping, because the listener, from what I can see now, is probably like, yo, that's good and all, dope bar. Hey, let me get back to that hook though, bro.
So basically, what you're saying is artists need to stop rapping.
I be mindful.
If hip hop is dead,
look,
wait. Oh, that's it.
But there are songs with a lot of rapping. Caleb Gordon and Alano, his song with Rocky Road Part 2, where it's all rapping.
Yeah.
And my 8-year-old son loves that song. So it's not necessarily about less rapping. It's compelling and delightful musical experiences for the marketplace.
Okay.
Whether rapping, singing, fast beat, slow beat, big hook, small hook, doesn't really matter. The form is the music have moments of compelling musical experiences that can be highlighted on a social media 15-second feed, which, call us crazy if you want. Everybody's scrolling looking for 15-second moments on their phone. Everybody. Y'all doing it. I'm doing it. You're doing it. Look at something to captivate me in these 15 seconds. That's dope. And then prayerfully, when you hear that 15 seconds, you go to this artist page, you see their story, you see their faith, you go to their Spotify, and you prayerfully hear a great song that points to Jesus, that gives you hope, and actually entertains you, that you keep wanting to run back. And there you have the business of Reach Records in 2023 in a nutshell.
on some level, there you have marketing and A&R, because I want to give respect to some of the other members on our there's so much that goes into this, y'all.
Yeah.
And we might hear this recording, we may hear this show, it might get ran back and think, man, I disagree with everything. But it's just, it's like that's where we were at in the moment. So Ace, man, thank you for sharing your stories.
Thank you for sharing yours, man.
Yeah, it's a lot, man. And thank you to our listeners. Thank you if you just tapped in. We want to encourage you to listen to the full episode. My name is Marcus, and I'm with Ace Harris, and I think this is gonna be probably a series that we might have to do.
Yeah.
And we want to give a shout out to Holy Culture Radio. We're on Sirius XM Channel 154. This has been an amazing time together with you, Ace. And we're gonna sign this one off. We'll be back next week, Tuesday at 8. Keep it locked. Holy Culture Radio, 116 Live, Sirius XM Channel 154. We'll see y'all next week.